Hi folks, Raised here. So I've had quite a few requests on how to make a trap in Unreal Tournament 4. And since the custom map I've made, the hydraulics features one, I figured I'd make a tutorial about it. So let's jump to the editor. So here you have the trap in my map. The principle is pretty easy. Each time a player hits the button or touches the button over here in green, the trap will close very fast, trapping any player inside. And then, since it's pretty much the principle of a water exchanger, it means that you have water coming with high pressure from here and filling the trap with water at high pressure. So what I wanted is to make sure that a player which is standing, for instance, here will get killed before a guy here and then a guy here, so it will simulate the flow of the water filling in the trap. So to make a trap you need two elements. The first one, which is selected here, is an animation. So the animations are made with Matinee, and this will take care of all the effects, visual effects, like taking this lid over here and closing it. And it will also, for my purpose, move the trigger that will simulate the flow of the water. The second part is a blueprint that will actually know when to trigger the trap and launch the animation at the right time. So let's start maybe with the animation. You can see it's over here. If I show the settings, but it's make sure to check exactly like I did. So uncheck all these. Check this one, if true sequence will rewind itself back to the start each time the play input is activated. So this means that if you press the button once, the animation will be done, and when the animation is finished, if you press again, it will allow the animation to restart. It's like a loop, but that you can control. It's not an automatic loop. And I think that's pretty much all you need. So if we go into the Matinee editor, here you can see I have my trap, so that's for the lead, and here that's for the trigger, which will flow inside. But let's watch it. So we just missed it here. But as you can see, so the animation is 7 seconds long roughly. First we close it, and then what you can see in there making that movement is the trigger. This trigger will collide with every player inside and give us the information on who to kill. So you can see it really simulates that this flow of water going quickly inside the chamber and killing everything. So suppose you're here, when it closes, then you get trapped, and here you have really this trigger hitting you. Okay. So for the animation, that's pretty much it. That's not exactly complicated to do. So the second part is, as I've said, the blueprint. So for the blueprint, first what you need is to set up a trigger in your environment. And here, obviously, this is my button. I wanted to make sure that you can activate the trap either by shooting at it directly, or if it takes any damage. So if you make a shock rifle combo just next to it and it takes damage, it will activate the trap. Same if you pop a redeemer over here, the damage will extend to the trigger and activate the trap. And I also wanted to make sure that, for instance, if you're standing here as a player, you can jump or hammer jump on it, and simply going against it with your own body will activate it. So that's more the principle of a real button. So for this, you select the trigger, and over here, as you can see in the blueprint, you can add events from that trigger. So here, make sure that on the collision it generates both over here, otherwise you won't get the activation when you get actually a collision. And then here you can see you can add on collision different types. So we need on actor hits, and I can't remember the other one. So if I go directly to the blueprint, we'll see them. Okay, open level blueprint. and here is the trap. So what you can see here from the trigger selected, we got an on actor head. So this happens when with your own body you collide with the button, and on take any damage. So as I've explained before, each time it gets damaged, it will trigger. So what I do is I get these two into a branch with a simple condition: is the trap currently activated? So I start by putting it to false, and this is done to make sure that the trap won't be reactivated while it's already activated. So if, for instance, the trap is already activated, here this will result in true, which does nothing. So this has to be false to get over here and continue. So once we know we can activate our trap safely, I set that it is activated. So now each time these two triggers get triggered again, it won't actually continue over here. It will go to true and do nothing. Then that's pretty much for debugging, but that's printing a string, which is this one, exchanger activated. That's for debug, so I know when it's activated. It prints simply on the screen a small message. The print to screen, I think by default is set to true, but I prefer to just set it hard. So now we have our event which is detected when we are supposed to activate the trap. We set that it is activated, we print that it's been activated, and now we can play here the animation. So here you need a reference to your matinee, here trap matinee, and here, thank you, yes, this is the play. Make sure this is the server only, because you'd rather have the trap being controlled by the server than the client, for obvious cheating reasons. So this part is the activation. The next part is actually split in two. You have first here the damage activation, which is specific to my trap, because I have like the trigger moving inside. So I need to activate it first, and after, for a short duration, leave it activated and deactivate it again. And over here, this is dealing with damage. Who to apply damage to, how much. So let's take a look first at the damage timing. So as I've said, from the matinee over here loop, what you can see that what I wanted is to make sure damage is only applied when the trigger is sweeping inside. So it would mean, like, for instance, if the animation starts, so close, so it starts, and now you have to apply damage and stop damage when it's back there. So blueprints. Okay, so here the first thing I say, once the animation has started, I set a timer for 0.2 seconds, and that's the time you need before you want to activate. So it's not looping, and once this 0.2 seconds have passed, I use my custom event that toggles damage. You can see the toggle damage is then used over here, but we'll get back to that later. So I toggle damage, and then I set a new timer for 1 second. So during this full second, I'll make sure the damage is activated. It's still not looping, and you get a function name which is pretty cool, because it means that at the end of this time, this function will be applied, and this will actually activate the damage over here. And then I deactivate it. So that's when you're here. So the trap is first activated here. You get damage. After this time, damage is cancelled. And here, this is the timer to wait until the end of the animation. So that's simply the time left in the animation for the traps minus the 1 here and minus the 0.2 over here. And here it will trigger, when it's done, another event, custom event, which will reactivate the trap. And all it does is set the is activated to false. So this means that over here is activated will be false, and you can go over here. So it's pretty straightforward. You activate, you print, you launch the animation, set the damage on after 0.2 seconds, wait for 1 second, so during this second you get actual damage, then set the timer over here to wait until the end of the animation and reactivate the trap so people can use it again. And finally, as you can see here, we have the toggle damage, which is used over here and then again over here, so that's the first time to activate it. So it means this one is going on and this one will make it stop. So with this part we know when to apply damage and when not to. Now let's go to the apply damage. As you can see here, we have a new trigger, which is the one inside actually. So it's, I've hidden it over here and it's inside here, yeah. From the properties, it's pretty much the same as before. Make sure you enable the events for the collisions. If we go back over here, so this is an actor begin overlap, which this type of damage collision detection is like if you are the player at the beginning where you're starting to get hit by the trigger of damage, you will be detected and this will be triggered. So during the sweep of death, if you get hit by this trigger, then you know it will activate it over here. And this is pretty cool because it gives us all the references to the other actor it encounters. So each time it generates a collision with another actor, here it's very, it's pretty much any actor. So any actor that can take any damage will take the damage from it, from the trap. Here you can specify to be only players or any type of actor you want. But for my purpose, there will be only players going into my trap, so I don't bother and I simply use its row like this. And then over here we have the damage toggle, which knows when we can apply and when we can't. So then I use the gates to combine these two together. Simply draw over here the inputs and use the damage toggle as a toggle over here for the gates. So if this one is not activated and this one is actually getting collisions, it won't go past here. If this one is activated and you get collisions, this will go to the exit. And at the exit what you do is apply the damage, which is your final part. So also here make sure this is server only, for obvious reasons of cheating and making sure you don't actually have, if you have ping, like high ping, you can get issues where the trap would actually kill someone before, or maybe on a client, or late on the client and then corrected by the server. So to avoid these kinds of issues, use it on the server only. So then you get here the inputs, so you know to you have to apply damage and you know who to apply damage to. So it's every actor you encounter with the trap, so the trigger that sweeps inside the trap. And then I apply the 99.9 damage, which I think will pretty much cause an instant death to anyone, no matter how much armor or health you have. And finally, that's optional, but here I did a blueprint for a special type of damage, which is, where is it? BP hydraulics trap, there. So this is simply a blueprint that extends the UT damage type, and it allows you to set up pretty much all you want in terms of information given. So it's over here, I can open it. So here you can see, you can configure the messages applied. So if someone hits the button and while it is currently inside, it's like suicide, you can see it was too curious for his own good or her own good. And here you can define a few things. And that's pretty much it. Make always sure like you get all the same settings as I did. I think they are pretty clear. And this is the trap. Note that trap implementations will highly have heavy differences depending on the type of traps. Here this is very specific because I have the trigger going inside and making a sweep. But if you're using things like natural damage, or for instance, I don't know, spikes, as someone mentioned to me, you need for instance, the trigger here, it can be static, so it's way easier. You can always leave it on, so anyone falling to the spikes will die, for instance. Or you can make you can put it on the ceiling and just send random people at it, and they will die. The rest is pretty much the same. So again, this damage timing thing here is depending on my implementation, but these two over here, they are pretty generic, so you can reuse them. And I think this is all. I hope this is helpful. If you have questions, don't hesitate. You can ask them in my map thread or directly send me a PM, or sometimes during the weekend I'm an IRC. And there you go. Hope you enjoyed this, and good luck with your traps. See ya!